Video number 1 covered the opportunity. We found thousands of small business owners. We found what they buy. We found where we can go to put ourselves in front of them. We've proved all of that out. We've proved it with research. We've proved it with data. So if you haven't seen that video, you can go back and watch it. This video covers the expert's error. This error directly damages your authority positioning. You see, you should be seen as the doctor in each interaction you have with a prospective client. You should be the trusted, obvious authority in the room. But too often you feel more like a hustler, begging and pleading for your client's attention, always having to haggle and negotiate in order to close a sale. So what is the expert's error? You believe that explaining equals selling. You talk too much. Too much education, information, explanation. It breaks your core doctor positioning. This video explains how deeply this error affects your business and how different your decision-making client would prefer to interact with you. You cannot charge more or attract better clients without a perspective shift here. Today's video is about seeing and admitting to one of the most expensive mistakes a consultant can make. Please enjoy the video. So you've seen the data. We've proven to ourselves that there is opportunity to serve small business clients. But now let's talk about the error, specifically the expert's error, and what hangs in the balance when you get this wrong. You want to get your positioning correct when you are working with, talking to, putting yourself in front of small business owners. Do you want to be seen as a doctor, someone who is trustworthy, someone who is an expert, someone who is valuable? Or do you want to be seen as a hustler, a fly-by-night, flying by the seat of his pants salesperson? When you make this error, you end up in the wrong category. Let's talk that through. So here's what we do as experts. We begin with our expertise. It's what we know. And we take what we know and we put it into some form of service, right? So we develop our service. Then we put that service out every way we know how. We try networking and referrals. We may use email and social media. We may graduate to using content and advertisements. We may start doing proposals and using a proposal process. But you got to put your service out, so you do it the best way you know how. And what are you trying to do? You're trying to get conversations. You want someone to talk to you, right? And have a good dialogue. From that, if it goes well, you'll get a client. That's good logic, right? But here's a moment we can all identify with. You finally get this conversation and it just doesn't happen the way you thought it would. Like, I sat down, I talked to the guy, I explained all my services, and he just gave me this deadpan face in response. I sat down, I talked to the lady, I walked her through my entire proposal, and she just kind of went, "We'll get back to you." I don't understand. What broke? Why wasn't I successful in this conversation? Why didn't he buy? Why didn't she buy? The assumption is, if I explain, he will buy. We assume as consultants that our expertise is easily understood and easily valued. And so we take all of what we know, we put it in some sort of service, we explain it through all of our marketing materials. We explain it in all these different files and formats. So maybe we're able to talk ourselves into a conversation. But when we get here, we're still explaining. And we explain and we explain and we explain to a person that may or may not fully understand or value it. And they leave confused and we leave confused because we didn't get the client that we thought. Because we assumed that if I explain, he will buy. And our unfortunate takeaway here, when we don't get this sale, is we think we should explain more or explain better. We've got this wrong. This is the classic expert error, and it makes all of this so difficult to navigate. But I've got some good news here. Where we got the steps right, we just got the order wrong. We shouldn't be going from top to bottom. We should be going from bottom to top. In other words, shape all of this from what your client expects. What does your CEO client, your small business client, what do they expect from the conversation that they're having? What do they expect to read in the marketing material you send them? What do they expect to see in the service that you're offering? And what part of your expertise is most valuable to them? All of this works when you do it from the right direction. But that needs a moment. So indulge me while we talk a little bit more about what your client is expecting.
There are two articles I want to share with you to give you a snapshot of what your small business owner client is thinking about when they engage with you. Both articles come from the Harvard Business Review. The first is titled Salespeople Need a Strategy for Selling to CEOs. Let me give you the bullet points here. According to a study, executives consider less than 1/5 of the meetings they have with salespeople to be valuable. Less than 1 in 5 meetings with a salesperson is found valuable by an executive, right? Salespeople are just not meeting the mark, right? Now, let's go a little further. Let's look at what they're doing wrong. First, when selling this to executives, you want to keep a few things in mind. First, they are concerned chiefly with business outcomes. Your executive level decision maker, your small business owner client is thinking specifically about business outcomes. They're not trying to learn about your services. They're trying to get certain things done. Second note here is they'll consider the needs and opinions of multiple constituencies. There may be other stakeholders that they have to consider when buying or not buying this service that you offer. And so you have to respect the fact that they're thinking about multiple stakeholders at the same time. If you can think with them, you become even more valuable. Third note here, senior executives must consider how a decision could affect various parts of their organization. So there could be multiple departments, divisions, software tools, processes that must be linked together to make your recommendations work. So again, you recognizing that they think about this and your ability to think about this with them greatly increases your value to them. Now, let's add some more pressure to that. There's a second article here. The Leader's Calendar, again, by HBR. The title is How CEOs Manage Their Time. And I want to skip down to one particular part of this article. Here we are. They are always in meetings. CEOs attend an endless stream of meetings. And they spend 72% of their total work time in meetings. 70% of their work time is spent meeting with people. They already have a lot of meetings, right? Here's another thing I want to show you here. The vast majority of a CEO's time was scheduled in advance. So now we're saying 75% of their time is scheduled in advance, and the majority of that time is spent in meetings. So they already have a lot of meetings. So meeting with you is another meeting on their calendar. Secondly, they don't have a lot of time scheduled for you because much of their time is already booked in advance. So it's really important that you appreciate that this is the decision-making environment that your high-level client is navigating. Now, in full disclosure, many of the CEOs who are surveyed here run really, really big companies, even global in scale. But you'll find that the insights here are also relevant to you. High-level decision makers, high-level CEOs, people who run small businesses function like this. They are constantly managing their time at the highest level possible, and they work with a lot of salespeople who don't know how to talk to them at their level.
So let's reset ourselves around this new understanding right now. Your prospective client is not a fellow expert, and they do not want to become one. So where you may want to share tons of information in an effort to be helpful, that prospective client of yours is trying to solve a problem, and so you need to be oriented around that expectation. In fact, the more you share, the more you confuse, the more you frustrate. Your prospect must consider people and process before making a final decision, and they can't make their decision without this context. Where for you, it might be simple, buy or not buy. For them, they've got to figure out, so who's going to use this and how and when? They've also got to figure out the process. What systems should be hooked up to this so that it works the way I need it to work? They have to consider this before making that decision. So even if they're prepared to decide today, they've got to go through this thinking in order to make that decision comfortably. You should come prepared to hear this conversation, and you should come prepared to navigate that with them. Your prospective client is under a constant time crunch. They have a lot of meetings scheduled, and they're scheduled in advance. So for them, meeting fatigue and limited availability is real. They just don't have the mental bandwidth to discuss things philosophically. They need their experts to be sharp and to be pointed and to be direct about how they can help. Because of all of this, your prospective client makes decisions quickly, often much earlier in the process than you think. They look at every email, social post, piece of content to determine whether or not you are a doctor that understands their situation. The toughest part here is that even though this might be your client's natural intuition, it can be very different than your natural intuition. But if you want doctor level positioning, we got to find a way to merge those two things together. And that merger has to sound and feel and look a lot like this. Well, there you have it. Thank you for watching today's video. Here's your next step. Please post in the comment section below, what is your number one takeaway from this video? I know a lot of content has come at you. There are a lot of moving parts, and we'll just kind of start with the first thing for you. What is the most important thing you've taken away from this video? I look forward to seeing you in the next one.